And welcome back again, and we've moved a little bit further around the Hackspace today, and we're now going to interview Laura, who's going to tell us a bit about, what are you going to tell us about?
I'm going to talk to you a bit about Danceroom Spectroscopy. I'm the choreographer on this project, and I've been working with, it's a very collaborative project. We work with David Glowacki, who's a theoretical chemist, Phil Chu, who's a visual artist encoder, Joseph Hyde, who's a sonic artist, Tom Mitchell, who's a Max MSP programmer, and 5 dancers. So you can see that there's a really unusual set of energies there coming together to really transform the way in which chemical physics and theoretical chemistry can be perceived, but also what the impact that can be for the public as an installation, but also as a narrative story as well. So really pushing those kind of aspects. DS, which is our nickname because nobody can pronounce Danceroom Spectroscopy.
I wasn't going to
No, that's totally fine. DS is was a project that came about because David wanted to be able to show people the work he does as a theoretical chemist. And so it runs a simulation of the 5 most abundant atoms, so hydrogen, helium, oxygen, carbon and iron. But we wanted to push that further. So as well as running a simulation, so if nobody's in the space, it just runs a simulation and they all move in accordance to rigorous quantum mechanics. But to push that further, we wanted to go, well, actually in the world, we've got moving energy fields around that all the time. So we use 3D cameras to allow us to map a space, which means we can actually, if people enter into the space, they are superimposed into the simulation as an energy field.
Right.
And that's a bit like changing a flat piece of paper into an ordnance survey map, where you're either a valley if you're attractive or a hill if you're repellent to the particles. So basically, your presence in the space completely change how the particles move, because particles are a bit like people. We like walking across flat areas. We go very slowly when we go uphill. We can't get over the top of mountains. We fall down valleys. We get stuck at the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, they move similar to this idea. So your movement in the space and when you're inside the map space completely changes how the particles move, and therefore completely changes the sound, because the sound is generated by the particles.
Right.
As you do. And so this can run as an installation for the public, and we've done it in quite a few amazing places, everything from big music festivals like Shambhala to as interactive installations in places like the Arnold Feeney in Bristol.
Oh, yeah.
But also we've created a show called Hidden Fields, which we've just performed at the Barbican here in London, and also as part of the Cultural Olympiad, and also at the Arnold Feeney, which is quite exciting. And the show was about going, well, this is great. When we leave it to the public, people really get into it. They leave their self-consciousness. They're playing around in the invisible world. This is fantastic. But there is only so far that people often get within an installation because their learning process gets them to this point.
Right.
And we were like, well, if you take all the things that we've learned from watching people, and we have people who control their movement, i.e. dancers, can we really push the system? Can we push and really find that sweet spot between the self-composing visuals, the self-composing soundscapes, the movement, and the audience relationship with it, and the narrative storytelling with it? Can you make a damned good show for people that they will really enjoy, that they can lose themselves in, and that inspires them? And that's what we try to create. We seem to have succeeded. It's really interesting because actually the project means that we attract non-dance attendees, so people are seeing dance for the first time. You know, we have everyone from the age of 3 to 73 in the audience. You know, it's a really interesting mix. So it's really transforming the way people are able to perceive and interact with very, very complex quantum mechanics, but also transforms the way some very simple pieces of technology and kind of digital technology are used. So transformation through that kind of thing as well.
So what kinds of technologies have you been using? I think have we got some of it on the screen behind us here?
We do indeed.
Right.
So we use an awesome supercomputer which has 2,400 processors. Right. That much of a supercomputer. We have 3D imaging cameras. So it's very similar to like the Kinect 360 cameras that people know. We use projectors, very simple. What we're doing is actually, it's the interrelationship between the simulation and those images that come into the 3D mapping. And then actually that interrelationship there. So actually the visual artist we work with, Phil Chu, has created some incredible real-time programming. So there's no latency. When you are in the space, your movement straight away has an impact on the system and on the visuals. So
Fantastic, excellent. So what kind of reactions have you had from people as they've come round? Is this something they really want to go and dive straight into?
Yeah, it seems to be very pleased actually. I was a bit nervous about today because you never know how out of context about it literally here, how people are going to react. I think people have been really interested in the idea that it's demonstrating something very tangibly that otherwise you don't get to see.
Yeah.
But also that it's this really interesting sweet spot between all these different disciplines.
Yeah.
And I think people were really taken by the idea of there being the show and being able to interact with it and the storytelling of it as well. So
excellent. So what's next? What excites you in terms of the digital transformations theme, and where are you going with this now?
Where am I going with this now? So for me personally, with all of our work, what I'm interested in doing is finding that I'm interested in those sweet spots.
Yeah.
I'm interested in kind of proper iterative practices where actually everyone moves hand in hand, but actually no element has full control of the system. So the dance isn't the dominant thing, the self-composing soundscape isn't, the visuals aren't, the system isn't, the technology isn't. But what you're trying to do is how can we tell the best stories using all of these? So I'm looking at how you can transform the way that the way that we are, create a freedom with the use of it. So that's me personally with all of our work.
Fantastic, excellent. Well, thank you very much
Oh, my
for
pleasure.
telling us about that, and we'll let people come up and talk to you, and hopefully a few people will have spotted on Twitter and come up and talk to you as well as a result.